I took your safer. Just give me 1 second. Okay, let's see if we get there. Well, we have to ask for that back. Okay, today we're going to start from the Mishnah on 49. Hey, Hayna starts. Hayna Arba Kesef. Okay.
You have to cut out that water.
Paper cups. We thank Hashem that they're able to learn Torah every day. It's the Sabbath learning we should have the base of Migdash immediately. And it should be a panacea. And learning the lineage Masa of Golda Baspar Binyamin. The tunnels have been seen.
A nice shout out last night.
Oh yeah.
His parents were very touched that we say
Okay, good. Okay. So this Mishnah here, it discusses the concept of Aina, which is overcharging, or it could be undercharging, underpaying rather. You wouldn't be undercharged. Overcharging or underpaying. And then there's a sugi here called Tagri Lud. When there's for Ibn Naftali, when he listens to this, when the Russian government wanted to close the yeshivas down, so they came to Belazhin and they were discussing what they learned. They were looking into the curriculum, so they wanted to learn with them a Gemara that has no psukim. It's no biblical source. It's just pure logic. So they learned this Gemara with them. The guy couldn't understand it. It was like too hard for him. So what's his name writes the Torah Tamima Karbarach, the book, the English book. My uncle the Netziv. So he writes that even a 13-year-old yeshiva bacher can understand it, but this guy Lilienthal was the head of the Russian Department of Education. Couldn't understand this guy. And it was Lilienthal, the other guy, or whatever. Anyway, so it starts like this. Hayna, when it comes to what do they call it? Exploitation or price fraud. When it comes to price fraud, it's Arba Kesef, Metzia Arba Kesef L'Seller Shtus L'Mekah. It's when it says the word Kesef, it means ma. It's 24. It's 4 out of 24. If there's a price fraud of 4 out of 24, which basically is 1/6, so then that's considered the Aina, which is the price fraud. We'll see there's 3 levels here. How long does the person have to say, "Oh, I was frauded. I would like to go back on this"? Well, the amount of time it would take for him to go to show it to a merchant or to a relative and say and find out if he was defrauded.
Is this if the price of the item was 160
or less? Yeah.
Or less?
Yeah.
So it's less, and someone has to speak up and say you're charging.
Yeah, the guy, probably the seller, right?
Charge more.
Probably the seller would say you underpaid. underpaid. We're going to see that the seller has more time than this. It was only the purchaser that doesn't have the that amount of time. That has a limited time. What's the issue?
Underpainted, I don't know where this one, that it was kind of like the buyers like
Right. Right. And overpaying is the seller is defrauding the buyer, right? Well, Hayr Reb Tarfon Belud. Reb Tarfon apparently was the Rav in Lud. Paskin there. Bayna Shmeina Kesef, Miester Rabba Kesef L'Seller Shlish Lameka. It's 8 out of 24. Right? So it's really 1/3. So he says, when does it consider price fraud? Not at 1/6, but at 1/3. Now, this is great for the sellers because they can overcharge. Not just 1/6. They, instead of charging, let's say they can charge, let's say that if the item costs 24, according to the Rabbanan, you can overcharge up until 28. Should be 1/6. Right? Divide 24 by 6 would be 4. So you can add on another 4. According to Reb Tarfon, you can charge 32. Right? You can go up. You can, and still it's not considered fraud, price fraud. Well, the merchants of Lud were thrilled. This is great. We're now going to get rich. Amr Lahem, he said, oh no, I'm changing the time frame. The ratio, the rate is higher, but the time frame is also higher, which means that the people have more time to retract, and that became problematic. We'll see in the Gemara all the details. So Amrullah, they said to him, Yaniach lanu Reb Tarfon, Reb Tarfon should leave us in our place with the way it was. They went back to, they rather pass like the Chachamim, have a lower rate of price fraud, only up until 1/6, than to have a longer time, because that would give more time for the purchaser to retract. Okay, Itmar. First, we're going to discuss the rate. Rav says shtus mekach sheninu. We said you only talk about the value. How do you measure the 6? You talk about the value of the item. Shmuel Amar shtus sheninu. Shmuel says you don't only see a 6 on the value of the item, but you can also see a 6 on the sale price of the item. So you have to look at two things. We'll see in a moment what's going to be, where the machlekes is going to play out. Shavi shita bechamsha. Let's say its actual value was 6, but he sold it for 5. It means that the seller was underpaid. So, or the opposite, or shavi shita b'shiva. The value was 6, and he sold it for 7. So either way, that's a 6 less or a 6 more. 5 or 7 is either a 6 less or a 6 more of the value. And everyone agrees that we consider this a 6 Vaina Havi, and it's exactly the rate of Vaina. So there's 3 levels here that we're going to be discussing. There's pre-Aina, there's Aina, and then there's post-Aina, but not post. It's less than Aina, and more than Aina. Less than Aina, we're going to say is a Mechila. Immediately, it's going to be discussion if it's immediate. It's going to be forgiven. In other words, if you charge under 1/6 more than the value, that's acceptable. That's an acceptable overcharging. It's not considered fraud.
Doesn't the seller
If
set the price though? So it would be the buyer who would be.
But it's by the rate, by the market value. It's supposed to be a price of what everyone is selling, what it's going for. Right.
But then the buyer has to speak up and say,
right. Yeah, but but over here, if he undercharges, okay, but let's say he overcharges. He overcharges, right? So whatever the case is, if it's under 1/6, it's called mechila. It's forgiven. If it's exactly 1/6, then the overcharging or undercharging needs to be rectified. Either he gives it back, or the seller or the purchaser pays the difference, pays what he's supposed to pay. But the sale is still on. That's officially. See, it's not so simple. And then over 1/6, that's called bittul mekach. The entire sale is off. You could say I'm backing out of the whole sale. Okay. Now, what we're looking at here is how to get the rate of 1/6. How is it 1/6? So if the value is 6 and either pays 5 or 7, that's going to be 1/6 of the value. That's called bittul. That's called basar mekach hazlinan. Key pligi. Where's the machlekes between Rav and Shmuel? If you go basar moyes, if you go after the sale price, that's shavi chamisha b'shita v'shavi shiva b'shita. Let's say it was worth 5, and the person charged them 6. So that's 1/5, which is more than 1/6 if you look at the value. But if you look at the price, if the sale price, it was 1/6, he was overcharged 1/6. It was overcharged 1/6. If you look at the sale price, right? And the opposite, if the value is 7 and he was charged 6, if you look at the sale price, he underpaid 1/6. So Shmuel holds that that's considered Aina. L'Shmuel, Damar Basar Meisos in either video Aina, both of those are Aina. L'Rav, but according to Rav, Damar Basar Mekach Hazlina, you only look at the value price. Shavi Chamita B'Shisha is Bittul Mekach. If its value was 5 and he sold it for 6, that's too much. That's a 1/5. That goes to the third category where the whole sale could be nullified. Shavi Shiva B'Shita, but if it's worth 7 and he only charged them 6, then that's 1/7, which is less. That would be mechila havi. That would be mechila. So it's machlekes Rav and Shmuel, something that's worth 5 that sold for 6, something that's worth 7 and sold for 6. Yeah, Hill, you had a question?
It's like the whole appraisal, like inside or outside.
Yeah. Similar to that. Similar to milbar or milgav. But it's not exactly. Exactly. Here let's see. Shmuel says, when do we say those other two cases of prior to being Aina, less than Aina, or more than Aina? That's only if there's no 6th from either side, either from the sale price or from the value price. But if there's any sort of 6 that's in here, that's considered Aina, then that's the middle category of Aina, which means that the sale is valid. The only thing is the overcharging needs to be rectified. Okay. Yeah, so we have a machlekes. Machlekes Rav and Shmuel, how to look at the rate. Tanan, take a look at our Mishnah. Says Aina Dalit Kesef Mesin Rabba Kesef L'Sel Shtus L'Mekach. What is Aina? What's that middle category of Aina where the sale is valid but it needs to be returned? That's a case where it's 4 coins from 24 coins. Okay, which is a Shtus L'Mekach, which is a 6. My love, what's the case that we're talking about? The Zavin Shavi Yesrim Mesin Rabba. The value of the item was actually 20. And he sold it for 24. He overcharged him. Shma mina. We see from this nami shanino. Really, what just happened is a value of 5 was sold for 6. 20 was sold for 24. 5 fours was sold for 6 fours. Right? So according to Rav, that's not a case of Aina, that's a case of 5 for 6. There's a 1/5 extra, according to Rav. That's a case of Bittul Mekach. It's a question on Rav. Why are you calling this Aina, the middle case? This is really the third category of where the whole sale is invalid. My answer is lie. You just made that up. That we're talking about something that was 20 that was sold for 24, a 5 for a 6. Rather, we're talking about the Zavin Shavi Yesrim Rabbah Esrim. The value was 24 and you sold it for 20. Rather, the person paid 20. So he underpaid. Minasana. Okay, so he underpaid. So who here was exploited? Well, Meicher, the seller. The purchaser underpaid him. Let's go further. How long does the person have to retract from the sale? the amount of time it takes to pay back not to pay back, the amount of time it takes to show it to a merchant to see its value, or to a relative to get to find out its value. Rav Nachman says that limitation on when you could retract from this, that's leishanu el lekeach. That's only if it's the purchaser that needs to go and shop around. But the seller is always allowed to retract even later. Probably if he's undercharged, if he's underpaid, it's underpaid. So we can't be talking about where the seller was underpaid. Susan, can't be talking about that, because the continuation of the Mishnah puts a time limit which is only applicable to the purchaser. That time limit is not on the seller. The seller is always allowed to get his money back. Well, if that's the case, so it can't be a case where it was something that was its value was 24 and sold for 20, because then the seller would have been exploited, and that the Mishnah is not talking about that. Okay, you can fix the problem. Value was 24 and he sold it for 28. That means that the purchaser was exploited, and the time limit that the Mishnah gives us to how long he has is a time limit in the Mishnah is a time limit on the purchaser. Okay, let's go further in the Mishnah. Tanan started in the Mishnah. From Belud. Yeah. All of this is only when one of the parties doesn't know what that he's being defrauded. You can say, person can say, look, I know that this bottle of soda is only worth 50 cents, but I'm selling it for $1. The reason is because try to get it anywhere else. I'm telling you, I'm selling it for you don't want it, don't buy it. But if the person says, so then that's not a problem. The person wants to buy it, go ahead. But if the person says that, oh no, this is the price, this is what it's cost, this is, I'm telling you, this is what everyone's selling. So that's fraud. Here we're saying where the person is making it look like this is its actual value. Not that I'm telling you that I'm overcharging you because it's an amusement park and you can't, and you're not allowed to bring food in anyway.
Or like
$7 or $8 a bottle.
There's some people like in grade school they get like a big box of chocolates or whatever and then go to school and sell it.
Right.
What's the price?
Right.
But according to this,
if the purchaser doesn't know that he's being that the price is different, so then that would be I know. Over here we're discussing where the person doesn't know. If the person does know, it's not a problem. Then those items may not have a set price. Yeah, you were talking about the price of lemons, like how much the lemons is. It's unbelievable. No, you go to one store, it's like a bag is like for 99 cents. You go to another store, it's every one is 99 cents.
Hold on to your strike.
Okay, so where they catch you is when they don't tell you that it's per pound. They tell you it's per item. They're doing something there. They have it worked out. We don't know what they're doing, but like bananas, they tell you it's like 40 cents or something per pound, and then next to it's 40 cents per banana per item. Little letters. Okay, so okay, now we go to Reb Tarfon. Hi, Reb Tarfon Belud. Reb Tarfon Paskind. Hayna Shmeina Kesef Mesr Rabba Kesef Lasela Shlish Lemekach. It's 8 out of 24, which means 1/3. That's going to be the middle case of Aina, which means that the sale is still valid, but the exploitation is returned. That's going to be 1/3. My love. So what's the case? We're going to do the same story. Probably the value was 16, and he sold it for 24. That means that instead of 1/3 1/3, it was 50%. It was 1/2.
What does that mean if the transaction is valid, but still has to return it?
The transaction is valid, but like you went to the store, you bought something, but they forgot to give you the change. So you go back and you say, you didn't give me the change. They give you the change. But doesn't mean that you can now return the item because he didn't give me the change. So here we're saying that the transaction is valid, but you go back and say, you overcharged me. So they say, okay, so here's the extra dime. Here's the thing. But he can't get out of the transaction. Okay. So we think the case is that my lab, is it not? There's that he sold it for 16. I'm sorry, its value was 16. He sold it for 24. You see, basically, a value of 2 was sold for 3. Now, if you look at the money, so it's 1/3. So it's 1/3 less. But if you look at the item, if you look at the value, it's a half more. So it's a kasha and Rav. Because according to Rav, this would not be a 1/3. According to Rav, this would be a half. So the Gemara answers like the same way that we answered before. The value was 24 and he sold it for 16. We're getting close to the bottom of 49b. The Gemara says 1 second. That would be a case of underpaying. Minasana, who's exploited in that case? Meicher, that would be the seller was exploited. Let's go further. When was he put a limitation on it? When was this? The limitation was 1 day. He had 1 day according to the pattern. 1 second. That 1 day was only for the purchaser to retract. But the seller was always able to retract. That means that the case of the Mishnah was not talking about when the seller is exploited. It's talking about when the purchaser was exploited. So how could you tell me that it was the value of 24 was sold for 16? Rather, it was a value of 24 that was sold for 32. Okay, so that's the value. That's a shlish of the mekach, of the value price. 1/3 more. It was 24, it was sold for 32. There's 1/3 more than it was supposed to be, and that would be overcharging the purchaser. And then the purchaser has the time constraint, the time limit of when he can get his money back. That's either what they thought originally was turned out it was a whole day. I have a brisa that supports Shmuel. This is going to throw us off a little bit, this price, but we're going to have to ignore a detail here, and somehow that's going to help us. You ignore the details. Okay, it goes like this. Misha Huta Lalav, the Brisa says, the one that was exploited, Yadei Al Yaina, he has the upper hand. Ketzad, Machalei Shaveh Bevav. Let's say the value of it was only 5 and it was sold for 6. Minasana, who was the one that was exploited? Lekeach. It was the purchaser he overpaid. He was overcharged. So Yad Lekech Al Yaina, he has the upper hand. And Ratza Aimer, if he wants, he could say, tell me Ma'isai, give me back my money, which means I don't want the whole sale anymore. I tell him Mashenisi, or he can say, give me back the what I was overcharged. Yeah. Now, what's confusing over here is that that sounds like the higher status, the higher case where when it was above the 6th, where he can actually retract from the sale. We were saying that if it's only a 6th, then you can just get the overcharged price, the amount of being overcharged you can get back, but not that you can cancel the whole sale. We were saying that you can cancel the whole sale as well. Apparently, it follows this other opinion that we'll see on the next page. Okay, but that's not our main point. The main point over here is that even something that was worth 5, that was sold for 6, which is a 1/5 more than the price according to Rav, but since it's a 1/6 of what he paid, so that's considered a 6th, and it goes under the category of the middle category of 1/6. Does it give you the Rashi? What does it say?
Rashi 58.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Machalai, the Brisa continues. Machalai Shava Sheish B'chamesh, let's say it was worth 6, and he sold it for 5, or on top of page 50. Minasan, so who over there was defrauded, who was exploited? It was the Meicher, the seller was underpaid. And Yad Meicher, then the Meicher, the seller has the upper hand. If you want, you could say, Tenli Mekhi, give me back the item, or Tenli Mashinisi Nisani, or give me back what you underpaid me. Pay up the difference. Okay, so it seems that we have a support for Shmuel, and that seems to be how the Gemara ends. We'd probably follow Shmuel anyway, because Shmuel gets the halacha usually in monetary matters. This is the classic monetary matter, right? This is it. This is monetary law, right? Okay. Ibaylo, Gemara's a question. In the Mishnah, we said that you had the amount of time that it takes to run to the merchant to see its value. That's the amount of time you have to get back the get back the overcharging price. Now, 1 second. What about if the overcharging was less than 1/6? Is that automatically forgiven? Or does he have also a certain amount of time that he can, even then, he paid 1 cent more, even then he can get it back within that time limit? That's not clear in the Mishnah. Yeah. I remember seeing this bagel store in Borough Park, 99 cents for half a dozen bagels. And it was $1.99 for a dozen. And I remember I told the guy, I said, that's not the, charging an extra penny if you buy a dozen. That shouldn't be the way it works. So yeah, no one ever said that. So here, if the guy gets overcharged 1 penny, right? He gets overcharged 1 penny. So officially it would be mechila. Right? It would be forgiven because it's not 1/6. But let's say he comes back immediately and he says, I want the extra penny, I want the penny back. You overcharged me 1 penny.
You had to order 2.
Oh. You see, I would say really the opposite, because you have to pay for an extra bag. You have to have doesn't really fit.
Their business.
It's their business, right? They're trying to get rid of their bags. Okay, Ibailo. The question goes like this: less than a 6, according to the rabbis that argued on Reb Tarfon. They say 1/6. At what point is it considered forgiven? That 1 penny or that less than a 6? Is it immediate, or is it there only after the amount of time that it takes to show a merchant? Where it says if you're going to say that it's the amount of time it takes to show it to the merchant, which means that you have an amount of time to get it back. If that's the case, and what's the difference if it's a 6 or less than a 6? You also, by a 6, you also have an amount of time to get it back. And by less than a 6, you also have an amount of time to get it back. So they're exactly the same. Umar says, no, they're not. There is a difference. 1 second. We just learned that if it's going to be a 6, then the person has the right to actually cancel the whole sale. Or he can just take back what it was overcharged. If it's less than a 6, over there he can't cancel the sale, but he can still get back during that amount of time. He can get back the what he was overcharged, even though it's less than a 6. So there is a difference if you can cancel the whole sale. So okay. So we don't have an answer straight out right away. Like what's, there has to be that it's a mechila immediately. Otherwise, what would the difference be? Because even if it's not mechila immediately, even if you do have a time that you're able to get it back, there still is a difference between this and if it's 1/6. And that is, can you retract from the entire sale? Tashma. So come and listen. Chazal Divrei Chachamim says that in Lud, the merchants of Lud, the Tagri Lud, they decided that it would be better for them not to have the rate of 1/3, even though that would 1/3 is better, but it would be better for them to have less time with a lower rate than to have a higher rate with more time. Yeah. Because the person would come back after a day. If you have up to a day for the person to cancel the sale, that's too long. It's like by the cars, they usually give you like 30 days or something. You buy a car or something. What do they get?
I think it's 3 days.
3
And it
days?
has to be like a new car.
Huh? The lemon law?
Jeff's an attorney.
There's a certain like certain amount of time that they can do certain things to the car to get it to run for that amount of time, and immediately after that it like breaks. You know, right? They have like some techniques that they can make it still work, and it's exactly that.
Same thing with the warranty.
So they said that you have Chazal Divacham. They decided that we'd rather have this, even though it's a lower rate, but because there's less time, the merchant said it's better for us. Savrua, they understood. Pachis mishlish l'Reb Tarfon kepachis mishtus l'Rabbanan dami. Okay. We have 3 levels, right? You have less than a sixth, and more than a sixth. That's the Rabbanan. Reb Tarfon, you also have 3 levels. You have less than a third, you have a third, and then you have above a third, more than a third. Now, the same rules that would apply to the Rabbanan by a sixth should apply to Reb Tarfon by the third. What would be less than, what would be the halacha less than a sixth according to the Rabbanan? So we're not really sure, but we know that that it's mechila. Question is it immediate, or does he have a time frame? Whatever the case is, that should be the same halacha by Reb Tarfon, less than a third. It's either immediate or you have a certain time frame where you can retract. Okay, now. Let's say you say that according to the rabbis, less than a sixth, you had until amount of time takes to show it to the merchant. And you can still there is a possibility of getting your money back even if the overcharging was less than 1/6. What would that mean? That means according to the rabbis, you have up until a K'dei Tagar, and according to Reb Tarfon, you have 1/3. Reb Tarfon kol hayom, and Reb Tarfon you have up to 1 day. Now that's too much. 1 day is too much. Mishamachi Chazur, that's where they retracted. They rather have only the amount of time it takes to run around the corner to the merchant rather than to give the guy the whole day. That's why they retracted. But if the rabbis say, you have to follow this. If the rabbis say that less than 1/6 is immediate, what would that mean? Well, Reb Tarfon, Namilal Tav Mechila, and according to Reb Tarfon, it's also immediate. My Chazra, why did they retract? With Reb Tarfon Nichel Tzvei, it's much better according to Reb Tarfon. My Rabbanan Kamashal I know, Reb Tarfon Av Mechila. Take a look like this. If there's never a way of going back, if it's less than a sixth, immediately it's Mechila. Okay, the deal's done. So let's say there was an item that was sold for, its value was 24, it was sold for 28. That's 1/6 more. So According to Reb Tarfon, it was sold for 30. It's under 1/3. According to Reb Tarfon, that's comparable to the Rabbanon under 1/6. So if it's immediately considered a sale and it's done, so according to Reb Tarfon, the guy just made not 4 coins, 5 coins, 6 coins. As long as it's not 8 coins more, the sale's done. And the guy made up to 8 coins. And it's immediate, and there's no way of retracting. That's if you say the Rabbanan say it's immediate. So why would they say, oh, if it's more than if it's more than 8 coins, then you have the whole day to retract. But in a lot of those cases, it's going to be immediate. The sale's going to be done even after they would go back to the Rabbanan. The Rabbanan say that the guy can still retract if it's 28 or 29. The guy can retract and he can cancel the whole sale. And according to Reb Tarfon, the sale's a done deal. So it must be that the opposite. It must be that according to the Rabbanan, the sale is not done by when it's under 1/6. You still have a time frame to get it back. Therefore, according to Reb Tarfon, you have a third. Under a third, you also have a time frame to get it back. Because we're comparing 1/6 of the Rabbanan to 1/3 according to Reb Tarfon, and then the merchants were really excited about following Reb Tarfon. Everyone's like, okay, I'm following Reb Tarfon now. And then Reb Tarfon said, no, I'm changing the amount of time that you have to retract. So then they say, okay, we'll go back to the Rabbanan. But we're understanding though that if it's the level of Ainah, but if it's less than the level of Ainah, which means under 1/6 or under 1/3, that would be bittul. That would be no time frame. Then according to the Reb Tarfon, it works out much better. So why would they ever go back to following the Rabbanan? So the Gemara answers, Mi Savres, the Gemara adjusts this understand. See, this is interesting. This is like a game where the rules of the game keep switching. You know, that's it's like this gets difficult. Like you're playing chess and the bishop is supposed to move one way. And then okay, it goes different. It jumps now. You change the rules. What is it?
Like lava.
What is it?
Lava.
Oh, like lava.
No, lava.
Oh, lava and change the rules. Oh, I thought you were talking about lava and it changes its shape. Okay. Misabres.
In our house, we call that African rules.
Whoa. Those guys,
Family show.
yeah, exactly. Protest from Africa.
Yes, it's that.
A lot of Moroccans.
So misavres pachas mishleshler Reb Tarfon kepachas mishleshler Rabbanan dami. The reason why we're proving that there needs to be a time frame, even if it's less than a 6. The reason why we're saying that is because we're understanding that under a 1/3 according to Reb Tarfon is exactly like under a 6 according to the Rabbanan. But it turns out the Gemara says that you got it wrong. Under a 1/3 according to Reb Tarfon is not considered under a 6 according to Rabbanan. It's considered a 6 according to the Rabbanan. It works like this. Mishtus v'ad shlish l'Reb Tarfon kishtus atma l'Rabbanan dami. The Rabbanan have 3 levels. Under a 6, exactly a 6, and above a 6. Reb Tarfon has under a 1/3. I'm sorry. They have under a 6. It's like under a 6 in the Rabbanan, and Reb Tarfon is the same. From a 6 until a 1/3 is, according to Reb Tarfon, like a 6 itself is the middle level. Now, as Reb Tarfon, all he did was expand the middle level. Instead of being only exactly 1/6, it's from a 6 until a 1/3. And then you have over a 1/3, which according to that would be equivalent to over a 6 according to the Rabbanan. So all he did was expand the middle level. It's like we had a sandwich, so he filled up the middle with a lot more meat, slices of cheese or something. The middle level is expanded according to Reb Tarfon, from a 6 until a third. That's the level where the money goes back. Okay. Now, Ihachi, if that's the case, my samchumi kara, then why were they happy at the beginning? Originally, they said, "Oh, Reb Tarfon is so good for us." 1 second. All he did was expand the middle level. The middle level is bittul. Is the person can get his money back or cancel the sale? We said. Tifshay, this is approved. According to this, it must be the bittul mekach l'rabanan la'ilam chayzer. You see, the case of Aina, that middle level, the Rabbanan gave a time frame on. That you have up until the time to show it to the merchant. What about more than Aina, more than 1/6? So the Gemara in a moment is going to have this question. If it was more than a 1/6 overcharging, do you have a time frame when you can get them, when you can cancel that sale? Or is there no time frame? Or does it work? So it must be that according to the Rabbanan, there's no time frame when you can cancel that sale. So what would happen is like this. The Kivan Amalu Reb Tarfon said, Havi Aina, that it's not considered more than Aina, it's considered only the level of Aina. Then they're all excited. Because now, since if it would be more than Aina, more than 1/6, let's say the item was worth 24, he sold it for 30. It's more than 1/6. According to the Rabbanan, you can always get out of that sale, even a week later, a year later, the person come back and say you overcharged. According to Reb Tarfon, that's still the level of Aina, and you only have up until originally what they thought was until the amount of time it takes to show it to a merchant. But then, then when he told them that they have the whole day, then they said, oh, well, the Gemara's understanding now that the difference between an entire day or la'ilam doesn't really matter. It says if it's person is going to figure everything out within 1 day anyway, so that's the same thing. So they said that it doesn't matter to us the length of time now, and that's why they weren't happy with it, because what he did was, according to the Rabbanan, the rate is anything over a 6. That the case was the value was 24. He sold it for 28. That's considered a 6. Anything over that, if it would, let's say that case itself, he sold it for 28. He has the limited amount of time to get it back, to retract. Right? That's at 1/6. You have the limited amount. According to Reb Tarfon, that's also a case of Aina. But the problem is now you have the whole day to get it back. Why? Because it's a 6 and it's under a third. So it's also a case of Aina. So originally they were excited because that wouldn't be a case, because anything more than that wouldn't be bittul mekach, wouldn't cancel it forever. But then they said that but okay, but you have a whole day. That's forever and the whole day is the same thing.
Did it take 24 hours or to sunset?
I think it's up to sunset. That's a good question.
Depends.
I think it's the business day.
Oh. They could have done it like minutes before and then.
Yeah,
not really.
yeah, I hear. I don't know the answer to that. I didn't look into that.
With
Yeah, Hill's question. How long is a day? Is it 24 hours or is it until sunset? According to this.
annulling
It was
up until sunset.
Yeah.
So I'm doing,
Okay.
research assignment.
The East Al Gadaita, because if it would enter your mind, the Bittul Mekach L'Rabbanan B'chtei Shel Tagal L'Krevei B'may Samchu, because if we would say, which is the Gemara is trying to resolve an answer to a question that's about to ask. If we would say the question that we're going to ask is anything over the level of Aina, is it immediate? Is it not immediate? Is there a time frame of how long you have to retract, or is there no time frame? It must be that there is a time frame, because if it must be that there's no time frame, because if there is a time frame, then why were they happy about following Reb Tarfon, It's exactly the same thing if they follow Reb Tarfon or if they follow the Rabbanan. There's always a time frame to retract. The Gemara says, no. You don't have to, that doesn't have to be the case because it could be Samcha B'Shtus Atzma. If it's exactly a 6, the Reb Tarfon Mechil Rabbanan Eina. Turns out that exactly a 6, according to Reb Tarfon, in other words, where does the bracket, that middle brackets begin according to Reb Tarfon, is more than a 6 till a third. But a 6th itself, according to the Rabbanan, is the level of Eina. According to Reb Tarfon, that's still in the level of below Eina, which is Mechila. So the reason why they wanted to follow Reb Tarfon was because they were going to gain at the level of a 6th itself, because they can have a conclusive sale right there. And then afterwards they retracted because Reb Tarfon extended the time. The Gemara says, Ibaylahu. Should I leave it over here? Ibaylahu. They're falling behind. Okay, let's leave it at Ibaylahu. It's going to be tough to get back into. Then we'll figure it out. We'll learn on Sunday. Okay.